The man was just eating a roasted corn, but he accidentally discovered a business opportunity. When he saw his son struggling with the spicy corn, he told him to eat less. Then he noticed that everyone in the park liked adding hot sauce to their food. That gave him a bold idea. What if chips could also be made with a spicy flavor? Wouldn't they become popular around the world? Once he had the idea, he immediately started working on it. He bought ingredients from the market and began testing different recipes. But the first spicy sauce he created was way too strong. It made his son stick out his tongue from the heat. While they were trying to create the perfect sauce, some factories started using advanced flavor technology. With only test tubes and droppers, they created a concentrated spicy formula. Although the heat became much stronger, the man believed true flavor had to come from real peppers. Only by using peppers grown from the land and combining them with traditional Mexican cooking methods he creates something special. To make it work, the whole family tried countless times. But the biggest challenge was, how could they make the flavor evenly cover every chip? They brought the chips to his youngest son. Does it burn good or burn bad? April says it's good. And that was the beginning of one of the greatest snack stories ever created. The story of the snack that would later become famous around the world had officially begun. The man behind this story was Richard Montañez, because he was the son of Mexican immigrants, and his father struggled with drinking. Richard had a difficult childhood. Back then, his daily lunch was something simple, prepared by his mother. But many students at school looked down on his food. They would knock it onto the ground. However, when his mother found out, she didn't blame him. Instead, she encouraged him to stay proud of who he was. When lunchtime came, those kids started making fun of his food again. "You think I'm gonna eat that?" Richard was stuck in an uncomfortable situation. But when they saw him enjoying his meal, their attitude began to change. His confidence surprised everyone, and it was also when his future wife Judy noticed him. Soon, the delicious food became popular among his classmates. As Richard brought more homemade meals to school, his savings jar slowly became fuller. However, life doesn't always go the way people expect. One day, he went into a store just hoping to buy some chocolate, but because of his appearance, he was treated unfairly. The police didn't give him a chance to explain. As he grew older, Richard started making more mistakes in life. He became involved with the wrong people and lived a reckless lifestyle. Eventually, he faced serious consequences and spent time in prison. For most people, a beginning like this would seem impossible to overcome. But what made this story even more surprising was that it was based on real events. And the turning point of Richard's life started on this very day. His wife looked at her growing belly and suddenly realized something. She told Richard, "You are not worthless, Richard." She wanted him to understand that his life could still change. But changing his life was never going to be easy. When his old friends came back into his life, Richard looked around at everything he had. Then he made a difficult decision. He chose to walk away and return home. After their second child was born, the family continued struggling financially. Even their youngest son's milk had to be mixed with tap water. Sometimes, they had to fix broken items just to keep using them. But even during those difficult times, his wife kept encouraging him to change his life. Because of his limited education and his past mistakes, finding a normal job was extremely difficult. Even getting a security job seemed almost impossible. One day, his son accidentally bumped into a car. The owner immediately became angry and insulted their family. When Richard heard this, he was ready to confront the man, but his wife stopped him. She knew calling the police would only make things harder for them. At that moment, his son looked at his mother and asked, "Mommy?" Only adults could truly understand the sadness and helplessness in her heart, because at that time, they could barely afford a proper meal. Richard went to his parents' house just to have something to eat. When he couldn't even find work, he became extremely discouraged. He hoped someone could help him find a stable job. His father had always been upset about Richard leaving without saying goodbye. But after Richard repeatedly asked for help, his father finally agreed. The next day, Richard arrived at the biggest snack factory in the area, Frito-Lay. It was hard to imagine he thought this was only a job interview for a cleaner. Even becoming a cleaner required a high school diploma. He brought the application home, and his wife helped him complete the resume. During the interview, he was so nervous that he struggled to express himself clearly, but he didn't want to disappoint his wife again, so he put his pride aside. "Maybe I don't have a diploma, but I still have the ability to learn." If Richard hadn't reached the lowest point of his life, he might never have said something like that. But he never expected that one small act of kindness would completely change his future. Even though his daily job was boring and repetitive, he worked harder than everyone else. His dedication made his coworkers feel the pressure. He started asking engineers about how the machines worked. "Don't you have a mop to flirt with instead of bothering me, Paco?" But in reality, he still had to keep smiling. What dignity could he even talk about among the engineers? There was a man named Clarence. He was one of the most skilled workers in the factory. At first, Clarence remained polite toward Richard. However, when Richard started asking about how the machines operated, his co-workers immediately noticed. After all, Those skills were how they made a living. Inside the factory, everyone had their own position. The executives had the most security. The managers had stable jobs. The engineers had the most comfortable roles. And among them, Clarence was one of the hardest workers. But because of unfair treatment, his career had stopped moving forward. No matter how much effort he put in, he couldn't get the opportunity he deserved. The factory even had an unspoken rule. Certain knowledge belonged only to certain positions. It was considered a matter of respecting authority. But Richard didn't want to spend his entire life taking out trash and cleaning floors. So just like when he was young, he brought out his homemade food and shared it with Clarence, right? Then he started asking him all kinds of questions about the machines. Richard couldn't help but admire him. Clarence didn't just help him solve problems. He could even hear which screw inside a machine was loose. Richard closed his eyes and listened carefully. "Oh, you will. When I'm done with you, you won't be nobody's son anymore." From that day on, Clarence patiently explained every piece of equipment to Richard. He even stayed after work to study the reasons behind machine failures. But once again, fate started testing Richard. A nationwide economic crisis suddenly hit. To survive, he was willing to do any kind of work. Sometimes our failures don't happen because we didn't try hard enough. Sometimes life simply gives us challenges we never expected. To reduce unnecessary expenses, many companies started cutting costs, and ordinary workers became the ones who suffered the most. Their jobs were the support behind countless families. Then Richard recorded a short video to encourage everyone. Every single one of you could be the key to success or failure. To most people, it was just a simple message. But for Richard, it brought back his hope. That man was the future CEO of PepsiCo, a person known for taking risks and embracing innovation. When Richard and his family were trying to create the perfect spicy sauce, they faced many failures. His father once again started criticizing him. "Come on, step up. You need to respect me in front of my company." "Respect you? But that doesn't bother me." You know what really hurts the most? After hearing this, Richard's wife was completely shocked. For the first time, she realized how painful her husband's childhood had been. Then she took the whole family to the store and bought every kind of pepper they could find. Finally, they created a spicy sauce so delicious that people couldn't stop eating it. But at the same time, the factory was going through massive layoffs. The co-workers Richard knew were leaving one by one. Eventually, Richard had no choice but to leave as well. But giving up was never part of his personality. Late that night, he quietly returned to the office. He found the company's phone directory. When the secretary tried to stop him, Richard confidently said, "He was a technical worker from the cleaning department. Isn't that just a cleaner?" Maybe because she understood the struggles of ordinary workers. The secretary finally connected the call. "Mr. Victor, the hotter it gets, the more people will want it. So I think this product could save our factory. It could save people's jobs. And you told everyone in the video to think like a CEO. So that's what I did." Richard then suggested sending some samples to the company. After getting the address, Richard soon received a phone call. It was the CEO himself, who had not even had time to clean his hands. When the executives found out, they completely lost control. From the factory manager all the way down, everyone started calling to find out who contacted the CEO. That was when they discovered it was Richard's idea. They believed the CEO would cancel the investment, close the factory, and everyone would lose their jobs because of him. Richard couldn't handle that responsibility. Seeing her husband lose confidence, his wife brought him to the mirror. She asked him, "After all these years with you, I have always believed that one day you would see your own talent and ability." With a wife like that, what more could a man ask for? Those words finally helped Richard find his confidence again. His wife then took him to the library to learn everything about business. She also helped him prepare a detailed presentation. With his family's support, Richard studied harder than ever. Soon, the day of the CEO's factory visit arrived. "I know I don't have the right to tell you this, but listen to me, and I'll always regret it if I don't say this." When the CEO's limousine arrived at the factory, the moment that could change Richard's life had finally come. You might imagine their meeting would look like this. Everyone would treat him like a hero. He would achieve success, and his life would completely change. But the reality was very different. Richard walked through the crowd nervously. He was so overwhelmed that even the handshake became rushed and awkward. After all, he had barely finished elementary school. Even after preparing his presentation, he couldn't fully express what he truly wanted to say, so he simply put the script aside. Instead, he honestly told them that their products were too limited. This new spicy snack could help people rediscover the flavors of their hometown. At that moment, the factory manager asked him, "How much market share do you think this snack can take?" Instead of giving a complicated answer, Richard thought about the supermarket shelves. He remembered how much space a single brand could take up. Then he confidently smiled. This much market share." The executives immediately laughed at him. But Richard understood what it felt like to be ignored. He believed this product could change the entire market. Has anyone here ever noticed how big this opportunity really is? The CEO also appreciated the new perspective Richard brought. Despite the shareholders' objections, he decided to invest in the product. Soon, a new snack called Flamin Hot Cheetos joined the production line. It successfully entered stores across the country. But instead of becoming a hit, it became one of the slowest-selling products on the shelves. The factory manager, who had already lost confidence in Richard, finally found a reason to stop production. He told Richard that his dream was over. Richard was deeply disappointed. He started losing hope. It seemed like the product would never become successful. But Clarence, his mentor and friend, didn't believe that. Figure out the next step. Yeah, what's the next step? If this place stops you, look around. The person I met back then was someone with potential. I can't believe you're still stuck at the bottom. But Richard still couldn't understand why the product wasn't selling, until his oldest son told him the truth. People have never even seen an advertisement for Flamin Hot Cheetos. They never spent money promoting the product. Once his whole family stood together behind him, Richard realized they had no reason to give up. So Richard went back to find his old friends from his past. He also returned to the factory to promote the new product. When the manager saw what he was doing, he tried to stop him, but Richard's supporters stood firmly in front of him. Some people laughed at him and said he was chasing an impossible dream, but Clarence only said one sentence and made them stay silent. Flamin' Hot Cheetos didn't fail because the product was bad. It failed because nobody knew about it. If we give this new product the attention it deserves, it can become a worldwide success. After convincing everyone, they loaded the snacks into their own cars. They started promoting them everywhere. Even complete strangers became part of the campaign. When customers asked, "What is this?" they immediately became interested. "Why don't I make my own spicy Slurpee?" Slowly, Flamin' Hot Cheetos became popular throughout the town. Soon, it was selling out everywhere. When the first quarter sales report reached the CEO's desk, he became curious. He wanted to know how much money the factory manager had spent on advertising. Then he discovered the truth. The manager hadn't spent a single dollar. The CEO immediately called Richard again. He ordered 5 million boxes. That night, the factory that was almost closing down came back to life. Every production line started running again. The workers who had once lost their jobs returned to work. Behind them were countless families depending on those jobs. After 180 days, the factory became even bigger than it had been at its peak. "Man, they should have made you president, bro." After hearing the answer, Richard could only accept the decision. The thing is, while Richard was still confused, the CEO officially invited him to join the company's leadership team. Then he placed a golden nameplate in the office door. Downstairs, a long-awaited applause filled the building. The first thing Richard did was call his wife. Later, he became known as the father of Latino marketing. He became an executive at PepsiCo and Frito-Lay. Flamin' Hot Cheetos grew into a billion-dollar brand. It also became a childhood memory for millions of people. Through his own journey, Richard proved one thing: your life can truly change